Shalom. I want to give all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shah, Wahar Kakadash. All right, this is your brother Bar, and I want to go ahead and get started with this lesson here in front of you today. All right, we'll be touching on Middle Ages of Europe, all right, or what they call the Dark Ages, and how during this time period you had the Israelites, all right, or in other words, the Moors that were ruling Europe, all right, primarily Western Europe, dealing with France, Germany, England, Spain, Portugal, etc. All right, you would go into the kings and queens and noblemen and women during those time periods. All right, those are Israelites, and I want to get into this, this hidden history that's been covered up for centuries. All right. And ultimately what you see in front of you is a depiction of Europe before we civilized Europe. All right. You see in front of you, man, ultimately represents the cavemen and women, all right, of the tribe of Edom. All right. The so-called white race. All right. Essentially, there were white barbaric tribes that were in Europe. OK, and we're going to, Lord willing, through the Spirit, go over several things, key points of the time period, all right, so that we can try to get a better overall picture as far as when we ruled Europe, man. And ultimately, this information will cover approximately the 1st century AD up until the 15th century, all right. And that's a lot of that's about 1,500 years of history, all right, which obviously I can't grab all of that, all right. But Lord willing, we grab the key points, man, so you can, understand our history, all right? Because, they start us out in school dealing with the transatlantic slave trade. But you have to understand that before the transatlantic slave trade, where was we at? All right? Where was we at, man? What you come to find out is some amazing information dealing with the fact that we got a lot of our people that were ruling and reigning in Europe. Now, when you go into the scriptures, man, you read 1 Maccabees chapter 3 and 48. It goes into telling you how the heathen, primarily the Edomites, have always sought to paint over the likeness of our images. All right. As you can see, man, they've always painted over the images of the characters in the Bible. All right. Of the Israelites, the true Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And when you read this in 1 Maccabees, this was around the 4th century BC. All right. So this was, during the time of the Greek captivity. All right. Hundreds of years, before Yahweh Shah even came on the scene. All right. Now, the reason this is important is because you have to understand that the Edomites have always been the deceivers. They've always deceived the masses and covered up true history. All right. So where you get the term whitewashing. OK, because when you fast forward from the 4th century BC all the way up until the 15th century. All right. You come into ultimately the Renaissance. All right. And during the Renaissance period, this is when these Edomites came back into power to do what? To come out deceiving everybody. All right. They covered up. All right. True Europe, man, the true rulers of Europe. They painted over the image of the Messiah. All right. The apostles, the prophets. OK. And, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right. And this is why these, they push race and color. OK. Because that's how the propaganda they've been able to use to confuse and to deceive everybody, as far as this history goes. All right. But what you see in front of you, man, this was a church wall in Russia. You see, further showing you during the Middle Ages, Israelites were the ones in power. All right. We were the dominant world power during this time, man. For almost 1,000 years, we were ruling, prospering, civilizing, bringing technological advancements, etc. All right. To Europe. OK, primarily Western Europe. And during this time, all right, you got to understand these Edomites were ultimately pushed to the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, Russia. All right. They were pushed to the eastern parts of Europe. All right. Ultimately to the Caucasus. All right. In which we have, we're going to go into that history a little bit, dealing with the Khazars. All right. Dealing with the Khazars, man. And I have a book that I want to bring out titled the 13th Tribe. All right. And that's when those Khazars, those Edomites, ultimately try to take on the identity of the Jews. This is when they begin to practice their Jewish culture. All right. And this is all around the time of the Middle Ages, man. All right. So this is what I want to touch on. All right. Which is, lesson will probably be broken up into several parts. All right. And ultimately, I want to deal with the pre-70 AD diaspora. Okay. Which is when the Israelites were being scattered before 70 AD. All right. Dealing with the diaspora of 70 AD. Okay. During the time of the ancient Romans. All right. I want to talk about a Jake named Septimius Severus, who ended up becoming a Roman emperor. All right. Around the 2nd century. All right. We're going to go into those Germanic tribes, dealing with those white barbarians. Okay. Who were in Europe and ultimately were responsible for the defeat and demise of the Romans. We're going to talk about the Moors. All right. / the Berbers of North Africa. All right. And we're going to go into several other things, man. Several other things leading up into the 15th century during the time of the Renaissance. All right. Wherein, France, the king of France and the queen of Spain. All right. Made it to where they expelled all of the Jews from Spain, Portugal, etc. Okay. And this is when we fled to the northern parts of Africa, Western Africa. All right. Ultimately got taken into slavery. Okay. So there's a lot of information, that I want to cover through the Spirit. All right. We're going to go ahead and start with the fact that we were a scattered people, man. We're going to start with the fact that we've been scattered into all nations amongst all people. All right. Since all the way back during the time, of the Assyrian captivity. All right. Which, that's around 722 BC. All right. So 700 or so years before Yahushua stepped foot on the earth. Okay. We were already being scattered amongst the nations. All right. So let's grab a precept. All right. It's going to be in the book of Amos, the 9th chapter, starting at verse 8. It says, "Behold, the eyes of the Lord power are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the face of the earth, saving that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, saith the Lord Yahweh." All right. And the only nation, the only, heathen kingdom the Most High is going to utterly destroy off the face of the earth. All right. It's going to be Babylon the Great. Okay. This landmass of America, these damn Edomites. But here's the point. It says, "For lo, I will command and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations. Like as corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth." Okay. Another precept is in the book of Deuteronomy 28, verse 64. Okay. Because I want to build a base here first so you can understand that we've always been scattered into the four corners of the earth. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 64. It says, "And the Lord Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone." You see? So this is why you had our people in the Americas. All right. The Northern Kingdom was in the Americas. All right. You had our people in Northern Africa, Western Africa. All right. Europe, Asia. Okay. Why? Because every time we got taken into captivity, all right, which we've been in captivity under every nation under the sun. All right. Every time we got taken into captivity, man, you'd have a remnant of our people that will remain in those lands. Okay. And when we were in captivities, you'd have, remnants of our people who were fleeing persecution, and they would run to North Africa. All right. In West Africa, because we blend in. Okay. We blend in with those Hamites. Okay. So you have Moses, going into Egypt. Okay. Etc. Man. You read several different accounts when our people did that. All right. And the reason we're grabbing this information is to show you that we've always been scattered. All right. Because when you go into the diaspora of 70 AD, that was really just the icing on the cake. Okay, that was that final scattering of our people, man. And that was during the time of the ancient Romans, all right, under Titus, when they destroyed our temple for the second and final time. Okay, you got to understand. So at that point, we'd been already scattered into all these nations. Okay, this is when you read in the New Testament, and the Apostle Paul writing to Israelites that were in Rome, that were in Ephesus, that were in Corinth, that were in Galatia, okay, so on and so forth. All right. Why? Because we were scattered amongst the heathen, as we just grabbed a couple precepts of many. Okay, we'll grab another precept. This is the book of Acts. All right, chapter 2. I'm going to show you that we ultimately identified as wherever we were at, we identified as such. Okay, it's Acts chapter 2, verse 5. All right, it says, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So we just went into the fact that we were scattered in every nation under heaven. So what you're going to see is that these Jews we're going to read, okay, were scattered into all these different nations I'm about to grab. Okay, but these are Jews that in Acts, the 2nd chapter, the apostles were performing miracles and signs for, and it ultimately brought them into believing on this truth. Okay. Acts 2 and 5 again, it says, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. You see, now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language. You see, so as being scattered as Israelites, man, all the way back thousands of years ago, up until this time, you got to understand that growing up, in whatever corner of the earth you grew up in, you'd grow up speaking that language, right? Just like we speak English now, all right? Over here in America, all right, different states you brothers are at, all right? We grow up speaking English now, but we find out that that's not our first language, all right? Our true language is the Hebrew, okay? So you had these Jews, these Israelites who were in these different lands who grew up speaking those languages. All right. So when the Spirit hit the apostles, they were able to speak in tongues, or in other words, speak in the different languages. OK, verse 7, it says, and they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? OK, because they were shocked as to how they were able to speak their language and they could understand it. OK. It says, and how hear we every man in our own tongue wherein we were born? You see? Now check this, man. Just going to further proof and show you how we were scattered everywhere. All right. It says Parthians and Medes. All right. And Edomites, which understand, man, the Medes are one nation. OK, the Edomites are the East Indians. They're one nation. OK, the Medes were originally Japheth. All right. So, these are Jews that are saying that they're, Medes or Edomites, etc. Why? Because they dwelt in their lands. You see, it says Parthians and Medes and Edomites and the dwellers in Mesopotamia and in Judea and in Cappadocia and in Pontus and in Asia. You see, so everywhere, man. Mesopotamia is modern day Iraq. You see, Saudi Arabia. All right, what they call the Middle East. Okay, Asia, right next to Europe. You see, Phrygia and Pamphylia in Egypt, right, northern Africa, and in the parts of Libya, northern Africa, about Cyrene and strangers of Rome. You see, Europe, Jews and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians. We do hear them speak in our tongues the wonderful works of the Most High. All right. You see that, man? The only reason I grabbed this is showing you that we were scattered everywhere. And when we were scattered, okay, when you grew up in that particular landmass, you'd identify as that, as such. This is why when you read in the book of Maccabees as well, that it was not lawful for our people to call themselves Jews during the Greek captivity. All right. So if you weren't able to call yourself a Jew, all right, an Israelite, your true nationality, what would you call yourself? A Greek. You see, you grow up in America, you call yourself what? An American, African American. You see, they don't have the selection to select an Israelite. All right, when you fill out those, those different tests. You see, when you select your race. Okay. And the reason this information is important because what you're going to gather, man, is that when we fast forward and we talk about the Moors and the Berbers coming from North Africa, that those were Israelites, all right, that were, accompanied with with Ishmael. Okay. Because a lot of historians like to write us out of history, you see, and they talk about the Moors and they make it like it was just Ishmael that was ruling in Europe. Well, when you see these depictions, these engravings in the walls, all right, several paintings I'm going to show you, all right, pictures, writings, etc., man, proving and showing you that the Moors were Negroes, okay, so-called black people, all right. Matter of fact, when you go into the word Moors, okay, let's go ahead and go there. When you go into the word Moors, it ultimately goes back into the word, it says North African Berber, which we see we've always fled and dwelt in North Africa as well as Western Africa. Okay. But it says a North African Berber, one of the race dwelling in Barbary. Okay. And this is Barbary here. Let me show you. All right. A map. Barbary is ultimately the the coasts of Africa. Okay. At the top here. All right. See if I can, get a better image for you. All right. Which is highlighted is ultimately the Barbary coasts, okay, of North Africa. All right. So you had our people dwelling in all parts of this area. Okay. So let's go back. So it says a Moor, North African Berber, one of the race dwelling in Barbary. Skip down to the point where it says from Greek Maros, perhaps a native name, or else cognate with Moros, meaning black. You see, now when you go down even further, it says also applied to the Arabic conquerors of Spain. So you see here, they try to tell you that Ishmael was the only one responsible for conquering Spain. But you have to understand, which we're going to go into it, how during the 7th century, okay, you had a lot of Ishmael coming into North Africa and converting some of our people to Islam. All right. And, you had our people that were a part of the army that flooded into Spain and just defeated those white Germanic tribes. Okay. Which we're going to go into that and show you that. But essentially, these historians like to place the term Moor on anyone that was coming out of North Africa. Okay. That had darker skin complexion. You see, because we're about to read in this same definition, it says being a dark people in relations to Europeans, their name in the Middle Ages was a synonym for Negro. You see, it was a synonym for Negro. All right. But guess what? So-called Negroes and so-called, Arabians, all right, are not of the same nation. So you can't apply this term, as an umbrella term. All right. But we're going to show you that the Moors were so-called black men. All right. So-called black people. OK, Negroes. OK, that inhabited. All right. Europe. OK, so I'm going to grab another quick point. All right. It says this article is entitled Arab Invasions, the First Islamic Empire. It says during the 7th century, the Arabs invaded North Africa 3 times. Ishmael, bringing not just a new religion, but a language and customs that were alien to the native Berber tribes of the Sahara and Mediterranean hinterland. You see that? So those who were already native to North Africa, the Barbary coast, was who? Was Jake, man. We was already in those lands. All right. Way before those Arabians, before Ishmael got over there trying to convert us to Islam. OK, we were already dwelling in those lands, man, which I have an artifact here. This is a mosaic menorah found in North Africa. All right. I believe it was found in Tunisia. or and I'm probably not pronouncing that right. Tunis, all right, you see here, Tunisia, all right. This was found before the 7th century, okay. It was a mosaic menorah. You see that, and I'm sure there's a lot of more artifacts and things, okay. But this is just one example, man, giving you, proof of us being in those lands before the Arabs came there. Because what they like to do is say that the Moors, was just anybody that was not of so-called white European. You see, that had darker skin complexion. But when you look at these pink paintings on the wall, the pictures on the wall, etc., man, and several images I'm going to show you that we were the ones that were ruling in Europe. King James, all right? The Charlemagne, the first Holy Roman Emperor, was all Jake, man. So we're going to show you that. All right. But yeah, so now leaving off from dealing with the diaspora, how we were scattered everywhere, we're going to go ahead and talk about Septimius Severus. All right. Septimius Severus, man, as you see depicted in front of you. All right. Ultimately rose to become a Roman emperor in 193 AD. All right. And he was responsible for weakening Rome from the inside. Okay. Because essentially during the 2nd century to the 5th century was the complete destruction of the ancient Roman Empire. All right. This is when you had the Germanic tribes, all right, dealing with the Goths, the Visigoths, the Franks, the Slavs, the Ostrogoths, etc., man, who are white barbaric tribes, uncivilized, okay, unpolished, all right. You see here that was in Europe, okay. Ultimately, the ones who kicked Japheth out, all right, because Japheth, all right, Europe, Eurasia was the lands of Japheth after the flood. And you had these, white barbaric tribes who ultimately kicked them out, all right, and defeated them. You see, and guess what? During the Dark Ages, as they like to call it, the Middle Ages, all right, we ended up pushing and, conquering these tribes, these barbaric tribes, all right, and they got confined to the eastern parts of Europe and the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, Russia. This is where you get the term Caucasian from, okay? Which we're going to actually show you an account dealing with that book I mentioned, all right? Several accounts, man. Now going back, dealing with Septimius Severus. All right, now he was born in modern day Libya, all right, which back then, all right, was a city in Leptis Magna, okay, which is in North Africa, all right, which I'll show you a map so that you can get the understanding that the ancient Roman Empire at this time ultimately consisted of Europe, parts of the Middle East and North Africa, okay? This was, the Roman Empire at its extent, okay? Now, Septimius Severus, all right, was born in modern day Libya, okay? Now, he ultimately ended up becoming a consul, all right, in the Roman Empire, all right, in 190 AD, and ended up becoming a commander of an army. All right. Now in 193 AD is when he became the Roman emperor. All right. He marched to Rome. OK, and defeated his rivals. All right. And this is ultimately a very important part of history. OK, because this is, was one of the beginning, stages wherein the Roman Empire was weakened. All right. Internally. OK. Normally, when you have an ancient kingdom, man, and these kingdoms, when they fall, okay, oftentimes they fall from the inside out. Okay, so this is a major, critical point in the ancient Roman Empire. All right, because what we're going to grab next, all right, goes into the Germanic white barbarians. Okay, those various tribes, which I have a map here. Okay, who, around this time. All right. Around this time, all right, were seeking to take over the Romans, man. They were seeking to destroy the Romans. Okay. And then they ended up setting up shop. Okay. Which I have just a page that I want to read from this book. Okay. That's going to show you that very thing. All right. Like I said, during the 2nd to 5th century was the complete destruction of the Roman Empire. Okay, so we see they, ultimately got weakened from the inside. Okay, because when Septimius Severus, became Roman emperor, he did away with all the former, Roman army, ultimately, and put in, his own people of his own liking. Okay. Now this was Rome approximately around the 5th century. Okay, as it says here. All right, and you had all these Germanic white barbaric tribes. All right, now these tribes ultimately come from East Germany, all right, and West Germany. Okay, they ultimately split them up, all right, in two various different tribes. Okay, who ultimately practiced different cultures and things, but they were still white barbarics, man. So yeah, the Visigoths, the Franks, the Burgundian, all right, the Ostrogoths, the Slavs, the Vandals, the Saxons, all right, so on and so forth, man. So these were those tribes, all right, uncivilized white barbaric tribes who were responsible, all right, from defeating Rome from the outside. Okay, now let's go ahead and grab this excerpt. All right, now this is from the book entitled "The Invasion of Europe by the Barbarians." Give me one moment. By J.B. Bury. Okay, The Invasion of Europe by the Barbarians by J.B. Bury. And these barbarians goes into these white Germanic tribes, man. Now this is chapter 2, all right, entitled The Roman Empire and the Germans. All right, now I want to read here. It says, the recorded attacks of the Goths on the Roman Empire began about 247 AD. Okay, it says the success of these attacks was due to the internal weakness of the empire at that time, for it had suffered from a succession of incompetent rulers since the death of Septimius Severus in AD 211. You see that? So from being weakened from the inside, all right, the rulers that came after Septimius Severus, man, were incompetent, all right? The Roman kingdom, the Roman Empire was pretty much already destroyed at that point, okay? And it says, in the simultaneously rise of the new Persian Empire, which had given it a very formidable enemy in the east. But the point is that these Goths, all right, these Germanic tribes start attacking the Roman Empire, okay? And ultimately the completion, all right, of, the destruction of the Roman Empire came around the 5th century, all right? I believe, approximately 476 AD, okay? So with that, man, I want to go ahead and jump over, and fast forward a little bit, okay? Because ultimately, you had those white Germanic tribes setting up shop, all right? Then we ended up, destroying them, man. Now, this is when you get into the history dealing with the Tariq Ibn Ziyad, all right? And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, okay? But this is whenever the Ishmaelites, all right, invaded North Africa, all right, and start trying to convert our people to Islam, right? So what you have to understand, man, is that this was the time wherein an army, all right, of ultimately the Moors, okay, the Berbers, all right, which is the Barbary coast of North Africa, which I'm gonna pull up a map again, all right, completely obliterated them down, barbarics, man, those white Germans, all right, those Germanic tribes. And this ultimately began the rule of the Israelites, okay, under the, the title of Moors in Spain, Portugal, and then the surrounding European countries. So this is very important. Now, when you go into the history of this Tariq Ibn Ziyad, all right, you have a lot of historians who say he was Ishmael, all right. Then they say he was, black, all right, but they try to make it as though he wasn't, a Jake, okay, which, I don't know whether or not he was, man. You're dealing with the history, okay? You got to dig deep sometimes, all right? And maybe you brothers and sisters can find that out. But it, really doesn't matter as far as that goes, because what you find out is that Israelites, all right, were part of the army, all right, the Moors who invaded Spain and took it from those, the Visigoths, okay? So let's go ahead and show you a map here. All right. Because there's a small, thin, piece of water, all right, body of water that separates Morocco, all right, or North Africa from Spain. And this is how we ultimately got into Spain and invaded and overthrew those Visigoths, all right, through the Strait of Gibraltar. Okay, as you see here, I'll zoom in. That strait, all right, that narrow, that Strait of Gibraltar is how we got into Spain. Okay, and this is when we overthrew, all right, those Edomites. Okay, this is when we began pushing them over to the east, all right, into the Caucasus of Georgia, Russia. All right, and this was around the year 711 AD. Okay, 711 AD, man. So let's go ahead and go back, all right, because what you need to know from this, all right, is that Tariq ibn Ziyad and his army crossed the Strait of Gibraltar from northern Africa and invaded the Iberian Peninsula, all right, which is Spain at this time. Like I said, was under the Visigoths, okay, those Edomites, and we completely obliterated them Germans, all right, and this began the reign of the Moors, the Israelites in Spain, Portugal, all right, and the surrounding European countries, okay, because what you find out is that shortly after this, all right, you fast forward around 768 AD is when Charlemagne, all right, became the first Holy Roman Emperor. All right. And as you know, all right, or maybe you did know, but Charlemagne, all right, is an Israelite. Okay. Is an Israelite, man. So I have a nice, just a nice little thing on to read from here. All right. Now we're going to start at the bottom dealing with this legend. Okay. Because they're going to use the term African, but what you're going to see when they say African, what they really mean is so-called Negro. Okay. Because like I said, man, when we lived in North Africa, as you see, Septimius Severus, all right, came from North Africa, so on and so forth. We'd ultimately call ourselves by the land that we stayed in. All right. And that's the reason why I grabbed several precepts earlier. All right. But it says by using the term African, we mean those given to balls of woolly hair. Okay. Only people got woolly hair like that, man, is Jake. Okay. It says example, St. Paul and Andrew above, and a full nose and mouth. Okay. Everybody knows, man, that so-called black people have full lips. All right. There's so much so they try to make fun of it. Okay. With Sambo and things like that, man. The nose, the lips. Okay. The woolly hair. All right. It says the shape of the African cranium is longer than it is wide. Let's see here. It says, and I'm going to remove the word Africans, man, because we're not Hamites. All right. We're Israelites. Israelites have long been in Europe and were, in fact, its first population. All right. The first initial population of Europe was Japheth. Okay. Which after the flood, of course, Japheth was darker skin complexion, all right, but they were a complete different nation than the Israelites. Okay, so let's see here. It says from the panel, these include Yahushua himself, as well as St. Paul, St. Andrew, and the angel Michael, among many others. Okay, so you see here depicted, man, these are the true depictions of Yahushua and the Israelites. Okay. Clearly so-called Negroes, so-called black people. Okay. Now I want to read this next part here. It says Charlemagne from 742 to 814 AD was the first Holy Roman Emperor. Okay, and this is why it's called the Holy Roman Empire, because it was no longer under the rule of those pagans, those Edomites. All right, those heathen. Okay, this is when Rome became holy. And this is when I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna read from an article going into like 15 or so interesting facts of this time frame, man. Because while we were civilizing, polishing, beautifying Europe, man. We were the ones who did that. And I'm also show you that the Edomites during the time of the Renaissance, ultimately, they didn't destroy all of that history, okay? Because they had to educate themselves, all right, on how to operate, all right? So what they do, they covered it up, all right? They covered it up, okay, which goes into Job 9:24, okay? But they couldn't get rid of it because they needed it to educate themselves, man. Like I said, at this time, these white barbaric tribes, man, were cavemen and cave beasts, okay? They were uncivilized, you see? So it says Charlemagne was the first Holy Roman Emperor, and at a time when Europe was primarily Israelites, all right? I'm not going to say African because that's false, all right? It was primarily Jake, all right? Because we seen what they meant when they say African, man. They're referring to the Israelites, okay? It says this is the famous sculpture of Charlemagne in Aachen Chapelle in Germany. His actual cranium and mummified head is contained inside the sculptured head, which was used as a model for the sculpture. The wall carpet modeled from his dehydrated, mummified head has more Negro nose flare. You see that? Negro nose flare. We just read how the Moors, that word ultimately goes down to a synonym for Negro. So the Moors in Europe during the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, were Negroes, man, so-called black people. All right. Okay. Charlemagne rather has the chiseled look of the Afro-American jazz trumpetist Miles Davis or Afro-American movie star Denzel Washington. His full lower lip betrays his, all right, and all right, that's the point, man. You see, the first Holy Roman Emperor was Jake, okay? This really began the reign of the Moors, all right? And this happened, just a few or several decades after we invaded Spain and Portugal, you see? So we began to set up shop, man. All right, and all you see the depictions, the panel, Yahweh Shah, St. Paul, all right, St. Andrew, all right, the Archangel, I believe that's dealing with the Angel Michael, okay, etc., man. And I have several, pictures as well. Just, we were all over Europe, okay? We were all over Europe, man. So let's skip down and show you some of those before I continue. You see, we were all over Europe, man. And these, like I said, they still have certain depictions in Europe, all right, at this time, okay? In different museums and things, man. They couldn't get rid of this history. You see, even dealing with the money, okay? It was no Edomite faces on our money, man. You see, these were Jakes, all right? And what you find out is that these historians, these devils, man, they always like to carve out our noses and our lips, you see? Because those full set of nose and lips is a clear distinction, all right, from our people and them damn Edomites, okay? That's a clear indicator, all right, of Jake. Everybody knows that, man. So much so that they make fun of it, all right? You see, the coat of arms, all right, which is another thing. We started the coat of arms, man. Dealing with the knights, okay? For, a particular family to show their house, what house they were from, kind of like you see in the Game of Thrones. That was us, okay? You see this? Swarthy, all right, goes to the word swarthy, which means what? Black, all right? So-called black, all right, or Negro. You see this, man? This is us. It says Negroes in coats of arms of noble families. You see, and the year, the date, all right. Let's see here. All right. But yeah, man, you see this, okay? You can't get around it. You see the gold earrings, the woolly hair, the lips, the nose, man. This is us. This is our history before the transatlantic slave trade, man. Okay? Negroes in coats of arms of noble families, all right? We were the ones who started the coats of arms. And like I said, this is why these Edomites kept those records, because they had to educate themselves in order to cover up us and paint the likeness of their images, as we grabbed from the beginning. You see? All of these, man. All right? And like I said, a lot of these paintings and things are found in museums. Okay, you find them in these history books. All right, certain ones, you know, you got to dig for this information because these devils have strategically hidden this. All right. But the Most High brings this shit to the light, man. He brings this to the light. All right, King James. All right, the 1611 King James Version Bible that we like to read from because it includes the Apocrypha. All right, King James was a Jake. Okay, contrary to what they tell you, man. King Henry the Eighth. All right. We can go on and on forever, man. You see, this is our history. All right. Now, ultimately, I want to go ahead and let's see here. I'm gonna go from here. We're gonna go ahead and show you some of the achievements that we did during these times. Okay, let me go ahead and read from here. All right, it's an article I've put up dealing with some of our achievements. All right. And now it says 15 things you did not know about the Moors of Spain. All right. The Spanish occupation by the Moors, the Israelites, began in 711 AD. All right. When an African army, okay, because we were, living from North Africa, under their leader Tariq ibn Ziyad, crossed the Strait of Gibraltar from northern Africa and invaded the Iberian Peninsula. And like I said, this was Spain under the Visigoths, the Edomites. Okay, now let's skip down. Let's see here. It gives an account, all right, of when those Edomites got completely obliterated. It says a European scholar sympathetic to the Spaniards remembered the conquest in this way. The reins of the Moors, the reins of their horses were as fire, their faces black as pitch, their eyes shone like burning candles, their horses were swift as leopards, and their riders fiercer than a wolf in a sheepfold at night. The noble Goths, the German rulers of Spain, all right, were broken in an hour, quicker than a tongue can tell. Oh, luckless Spain. You see that, man? Them damn Edomites couldn't stand against us, man. All right. Let's go down. All right. It says the Moors, who ruled Spain for 800 years, introduced the new scientific techniques to Europe, such as an astrolabe, a device for measuring the position of the stars and planets. Scientific progress in astronomy, chemistry, physics, mathematics, geography, and philosophy flourished in the Israelite Spain. You see that? We were as far as these inventions go, man, these technological advancements, we always were the ones who created these things, man. These Edomites just always, whitewash history and write us out of it and put their names on these things that we invented, man. The things that we did, our findings, etc. You see, you can't compete against a chosen nation. All right, you can't come. How are you gonna have the bottom nation? All right, Esau claim to be the wisest people on this earth, man. King Solomon was the wisest man on this earth and the wealthiest, and he was what? An Israelite. All right, you got to understand the Israelites. All right, we're the ones who are the salt of the earth. Okay, above every other nation, as scriptures say, we're the smartest, the fastest, the strongest, etc. Man, these are just the facts. All right, now, and the fourth point. All right, it says Basil Davidson, one of the most noted historians, recognized and declared that there were no lands at that time, the 8th century, more admired by its neighbors or more comfortable to live in than a rich Israelite civilization which took shape in Spain. You see that, man? And obviously I, omitted the African word there because we keep going over that. All right. These were the Negroes, man. Our people. You see, there were no lands at that time more admired by its neighbors or more comfortable to live in than a rich Israelite civilization which took shape in Spain. Okay, which I also have another, two books that I want to grab from. All right, further more proof. All right, on this very topic. You see, the proof is in the pudding, man. All right, while we were over there, just being kings and queens and ruling and prospering, all right, in the western parts of Europe, the Flintstones, all right, Esau, all right, the Khazars, primarily that tribe, was trying to, assume our identity. Okay, they was trying to take our culture, all right, and this is where you get the modern day Amalekites. Okay, those modern Jews in that land right now. All right, all stem back from the Middle Ages. Okay, but I don't want to jump the gun. All right, let's go ahead and continue. All right, the fifth bullet point reads, at its height, Cordova, the heart of Moorish territory in Spain, was the most modern city in Europe. The streets were well paved with raised sidewalks for pedestrians. During the night, 10 miles of streets were illuminated by lamps. Okay, this was hundreds of years before there was a paved street in Paris or a street lamp in London. Cordova had 900 public baths. We are told that a poor Moor would go without bread rather than soap. Okay, which I don't know if it says it here, but you also get into it, all right, where during this time, man, the Flintstones was not washing themselves. Okay, we had to teach them how to bathe. All right, you got to understand, man, that these Edomites were under our subjection during this time period. Okay, all right. The sixth bullet reads, the great mosque of Cordoba is still one of the architectural wonders of the world in spite of later Spanish disfigurements. You see, in spite of later Spanish disfigurements. I wonder why, man. See, them Edomites have always envied us. You see, it says its low scarlet and gold roof, supported by 1,000 columns of marble, jasper, and porphyry, was lit by thousands of brass and silver lamps which burn perfume oil. Wow, man. This is just, amazing when you get into this history. All right, I'm gonna look this up. The Great Mosque of Cordoba, okay? Because they start our history in school, and they don't tell us of our great achievements, man. They don't tell you these things, okay? They paint over the images and make it like they were the ones, who created these wonders. All right. So yeah, man. You see, which I can only imagine, man, at that height, during the Middle Ages, how beautiful things looked. All right. You can only imagine, man. All right, but let's go ahead and continue. All right. Let's see here. All right, and yeah, so it's just a lot of information, man, but you can research these things. All right, I'm gonna go to bullet point 12. The Moors introduced many new crops, including the orange, lemon, peach, apricot, fig, sugarcane, dates, ginger, and pomegranate, as well as saffron, sugarcane, cotton, silk, and rice, which remain some of Spain's main products today. Yeah, because them Edomites, they retained our records because they had to educate themselves, man. All these things that we did, all right, during this time. Okay, because now we're going to go ahead and get into the final part, all right, and I want to go ultimately going to end this lesson shortly, all right. But what I want to touch on now, all right, is give you more proof, all right, of us in Europe, okay, and with Esau being pushed over to the eastern parts of Europe, the Caucasus of Georgia, Russia, all right, what they was on, at least this Khazar tribe here, okay. Now I have a map here dealing with Georgia, Russia, and the Greater Caucasus and the Lesser Caucasus, all right. Now, let's see here. Let me go to another map, because this is where Esau was at, man. This is where the Flintstones was at, okay. During this time period, which, yeah, you see here, man, you ultimately have your Europe, all right, and you have Asia off to the right. Okay, so Esau, is being pushed over here to this part. Okay, yeah. So anyways, man, going back, I have this greater Caucasus and lesser Caucasus because this is where the Khazars, all right, set up shop. And you're going to see this is really where the term Caucasian comes from. Okay. All right. Now, this is from the book, The 13th Tribe. All right. First chapter. It says, about the time when Charlemagne was crowned emperor of the West. All right. The eastern confines of Europe between the Caucasus and the Volga were ruled by a Jewish state known as the Khazar Empire. So all the way back, man, during the Dark Ages, because they call it the Dark Ages because they were not in power. You see, they were not the dominant world power. They were not able to deceive the masses. Their faces weren't on the money, you see, and all those things, man. But it says the eastern confines of Europe between the Caucasus and the Volga were ruled by a Jewish state known as the Khazar Empire. Okay. And there you go again with that Jewish, meaning someone who is trying to be, all right, who has been a copycat of a Jew, of a real Jew. Okay. They wish they were Jews, man, because they see how great of a people we are. Okay. But you cannot write yourself into this lineage. All right. But continuing on. All right, when you continue reading the book, okay, it says here, a few years later, probably AD 740, the king, his court, and the military ruling class embraced the Jewish faith, and Judaism became the state religion of the Khazars. You see that, man? So around the time of, us rolling over there in the western parts of Europe, this is what Esau was on, man, or at least the Khazars, this tribe. You see, they were trying to adopt our faith, man, our culture and our heritage. And they began to practice it, man. And that's why they do it today when you fast forward, all right, in the land of Israel right now. Those are what? Jewish. And this book is going to show you that most of the modern Jews, okay, the fake people calling themselves Jews right now come from these Khazars. Okay. You see, I'm going ahead and show you that. Actually, I'm going to grab this point. It says, no doubt their contemporaries were as astonished by this decision as modern scholars were when they came across the evidence in the Arab, Byzantine, Russian, and Hebrew sources. Now, why are these scholars astonished? Because these are not the actual Jews. You see, it's simple. All right. They were astonished because you had the Edomites pretending. You see, when you read in First Maccabees, let's go back. Right. Pretending, painting their images over the true Jews, man. They've always done this. And you see, and it was only during the time of the Renaissance when they were able to come out and, fully deceive everybody. Because when you fast forward to this day, who do people think the real Jews are? All right. Oh, exactly. Okay, now let's continue. It says, one of the most recent comments is to be found in a work by the Hungarian Marxist historian, Dr. Antal Bartha. His book on the Magyar society in the 8th and 9th centuries has several chapters on the Khazars, as during most of that period, the Hungarians were ruled by them. And now here's the point. Check this out. Yet their conversion to Judaism, see, they had to convert. They're converts, man. These are not the real Jews. Okay. It says, yet their conversion to Judaism is discussed in a single paragraph with obvious embarrassment. It reads, our investigations cannot go into problems pertaining to the history of ideas, but we must call the reader's attention to the matter of the Khazar kingdom's state religion. It was the Jewish faith which became the official religion of the ruling strata of society. Needless to say, the acceptance of the Jewish faith as a state religion of an ethnically non-Jewish people could be the subject of interesting speculation. See that? Let me reread it. Needless to say, the acceptance of the Jewish faith as a state religion of an ethnically non-Jewish people could be the subject of interesting speculation, man. You see this? So those over in the land right now claiming to be Jews, they're not the Jews. They're not the ethnical Jews, man. You see that? Let's finish it off. All right. All right, I'm gonna start at the top. It says this has led several historians to conjecture that a substantial part and perhaps the majority of Eastern Jews and hence of world Jewry might be of Khazar and not of Shemitic origin. You see that? That's the point. These Jews, these Ish calling themselves Jews over here in America, calling themselves Jews over there in our land, Israel. You see, those are Sephardic Jews, all right? Ashkenazi Jews. They're not real Jews, man. They're Ish. You see, most of the modern Jewry, which all of modern Jewry, except, if you're a real Israelite. Let me go back. It says, this has led several historians to conjecture that a substantial part and perhaps the majority of Eastern Jews and hence of world Jewry might be of Khazar and not of Shemitic origin, man. You see that? Sheer daggers, man. You see, but Esau has always tried to hide their true identity because they're the so-called devil the Bible speaks about, man. They go into these lands and try to assume the identity and the nationality of a people that is not them. Okay? This is how these Edomites operate, man. And this was all the way start doing this shit during the Middle Ages. When we was over there in Western Europe prospering, they was over there in the East trying to, the Flintstones was trying to figure out how to take over, all right? How to be us. You see? So, yeah, man. So that's where you get Caucasians from, okay? Now, I want to go ahead and grab this, grab a couple points from this book and grab a precept and I'll close out. All right, but the point has definitely been hit home, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying, all right, as far as painting a picture of, where the so-called Negroes, the so-called blacks, where, a good chunk of us was before the transatlantic slave trade. Right now, we went over, we've been scattered everywhere, okay, but nonetheless, man, we was reigning in Western Europe. All right. Now, this book is from the Negro Question, Part 4, The Missing Link by Lee Cummings. You see, and all of these, the King of Scots, the Irish, the Britain, all right, around this time, man, the Middle Ages, that was us. All right. Okay, now this is right when you open the book, page 4. Now, these are all quotes. This is interesting. These are all quotes by so-called white people, all right, by Edomites, all right, Edomite scholars, all right. All right, the first one, Professor Winchell Alexander, Our Remote Ancestry, 1815 and 1900 collection of journals. All right, so I'm not going to read the full thing. I'll just read their the Edomite name and then I'll read their quote. All right. It says he quotes, "These short black men came from Atlantis, northern Africa, and they overran Europe. They were known as Britons." All right. Roman historian Tacitus, The Origin of the Black Britons. It says the Iberians are black people with curly hair. All right. Joseph Ritson. It says the Picts, the Brits are brown complexioned with curly hair. Okay. Ivan Sertima. It says the Britons look like the Ethiopians. Okay. That's why, we go into how we always fled into North Africa because we blended in with them Hamites, right? They look like the Ethiopians, but they weren't Ethiopians because Ethiopians are Hamites, right? Albert Churchward, the Black Basque were exterminated from Europe. Okay. So actually we're going to get into that. All right. Professor Boyd Dawkins, it says the ancient Britons, Irish, Scots are a short black people, Okay. Dr. Thurnham, it says, from the evidence at hand, it seems that the Iberian black man occupied the whole of Western Europe at one time. What was that time, man? It was the Middle Ages. Okay, they call it Dark Ages. You see? All right. It says, Professor Huxley, the Iberian Basque blacks' bones have been found all over Europe with his animals, man. This is just, I mean, this is, beautiful with this information coming out because you can't get around it. All right. Now this is, let's see here. I'm gonna grab this part from this book in page 6 by Professor Boyd Dawkins. All right. It says the original people of Britain, France, Spain, and England were short black men of about 5 feet 6 inches in height. They were in England when our fathers, the white English, invaded the land in 449 AD. Our fathers were a warlike people who by 607 AD had pushed the Basque west into Wales, Cumberland, Westmoreland, the Highlands of Scotland, and Devon. These black people boasted that they were citizens of the Roman Empire. Okay, and we had one, example of that dealing with Septimius Severus, right? The Welsh or ancient Britons were in possession before the Romans ever came here. These black Basque Britain have brought the knowledge of iron and bronze with them. The iron and bronze technology will be proven perfectly when I show you the German tapestry. Okay, which I'm gonna show you this tapestry now, because what you see in this tapestry is a depiction from 1400 AD dealing with ultimately, Jake soldiers defending, all right, a so-called black king and queen from the attacking white barbaric tribes. You see, German tapestry 1400 AD, it says depicting black soldiers defending a black king and queen in the windows from attacking white men, called by whites wild men and Moors. Okay, so the Moors interchangeably for the Negroes or the so-called black men. All right. So when you look at this picture and you zoom in to the left here, you see Esau. All right. And pay attention as you take notice. They have when you look, they have no shoes. Okay. Can't tell what they're wearing. All right. But it's probably, I don't even know. They have sticks in hand. Okay. They just got branches they pulled off a tree. All right. These are the Flintstones, man. And then when you look at Jake over here, you see Jake is more polished. Jake is more put together. We got bow and arrows. All right. Look at our clothing, man. You see our clothing is more orderly, more fashionable. All right. We have shoes on. You see we got a castle built. All right. You see the king and queen in the window. Okay. This is the history of it, man. You can't get around it. All right. This is a German tapestry. All right. You see that? So this was Esau during the Middle Ages, man. Okay. Look, man, I mean, no shooting it. Matter of fact, I have a precept on the grab in the book of Job. Okay. Job chapter 30 from the top. It says, but now they that are younger than I have me in derision. All right. Who are younger than I represent the Edomites, because you understand the scriptures. The nation of Israel is the firstborn to the Most High. Okay. Spiritual. It says, whose fathers I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. Disdained, meaning would have rejected or refused to have the Edomites set with the dogs of his flock. Why? Because they were big on bestiality. You see, these are the basis of men, the most profane, okay, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. You see this? No morals, no dignity. The cave beast, man, and they fooled you into thinking that they were this high caliber, high value nation. Okay, this is where they come from, man. It says, verse 3, for want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste, who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. Okay, they were driven forth from among men, they cried after them as after a thief, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in caves of the earth and in the rocks. You see that? This is when you go into they're calling them cave beasts, man. When they were in the Caucusus of Georgia, Russia, they've always loved dwelling in the rocks and the caves. Okay, we don't just say that for no reason, man. That's where they was at. Okay, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys and caves of the earth and in the rocks. Among the bushes they braid, under the nettles they were gathered together. And then when you click on the word braid, to cry out, to scream, it says from hunger. You see, because it said from for want and famine. They was going through it, man. They was taken out of power. They was going through it. It says they were children of fools, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. Okay, they were base men, meaning they were at the bottom of the totem pole. Okay, viler than the earth. The word vile. All right, the word vile goes into extremely unpleasant. You see that? Extremely unpleasant. Okay, these are cave beasts, man. These were the Flintstones. Okay, who today have fooled people into thinking they're the chosen race. All right. Now that's pretty much it for that part. Okay, now I want to go ahead and end it off. All right, which this book is entitled Black History in a Nutshell by J.Z. Shabazz. All right, it's pretty much gonna sum everything up that we went over, and kind of talk about or touch on. You know, when they start coming back into power around the 15th and 16th century, when you have the Renaissance take place. All right, but it's chapter 2, the big secret. It says what a Negro is not supposed to know. Starting with the Spanish Inquisition in 1478, the white European Franciscan Brotherhood of the Catholic Church designed a plan to expel all Africans or black Moors, the Negroes, and Muslims from out of Spain. Included in their plan was to work to gain world power and destroy the existence of black people's domination of the world and black people's achievements, and destroy or cover up all the ancient records, books, monuments, statues, and things that prove that black people were the originators of all great ancient civilizations throughout the four corners of the earth. Okay, so when they came back into power, what they do, they went out to deceive, all right, everybody, and to cover up our ancient records, books, monuments, statues, etc. That's why they carve off the noses and the lips. Okay, that's why they paint the likeness of their images. Okay, and this is the reason why I was about to tell you. It says much of black people's ancient history was not destroyed, but covered up because it was needed to educate Europe into the ways of civilization. You see that? If they had to be educated on how to be civilized, man, that shows you what? That they were uncivilized. Okay, it says, and whites treasured it and kept it in museums and private collections. Okay, that's the point, man. You see that? So they were uncivilized, all right? Real cave beasts, cave women, cavemen, all right? Who in order to educate themselves could not fully destroy, all right, all of our history and our achievements, okay, our records and things, but they sought to cover them up. Same thing you read in Job 9 and 24, and it's the same thing we read in 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48. Okay, this is what the Renaissance was all about. All right, by means of iconoclasm, all right, they painted over our images. All right, that's the point, man. Now let's grab this in Revelations. Okay, and then we'll be able to end it off. All right, this is Revelations chapter 20 and verse from the top. It says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having a key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. It's the same serpent that deceived Eve in the garden, which was a man, okay? Which is man was Esau, all right? It was the spirit of Esau, okay? It says, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more. So when they were in this predicament here, all right, let's go back. When they were in this predicament here, man, shut up in the Caucasus of Georgia, Russia, all right, and those different parts of Eastern Europe, they were not able to deceive anybody. You see, they weren't able to deceive anybody because they didn't have the world. They were not the dominant world power. Okay, they got sticks and stones trying to fight against us. You see this? Okay. It says that he should deceive the nations no more, until the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. All right. When you continue reading down, it goes into how when they were loosed for this little season, they went out doing what? Deceiving the nations. All right. And how are they able to do that? By way of the Renaissance, man. By way of the Renaissance. All right. Let's see here if I want to grab something else. Yeah, we'll grab this and close out. This is from the book entitled The Expulsion of the Jews from Spain and Portugal by Edgar Shaw. It says, in order to satisfy Queen Isabella of Spain and King Manuel of Portugal declared a royal ordinance expelling the Jews and Moors from his country in 1496. The Jews who were expelled from Spain and Portugal were scattered throughout the Mediterranean coast. It is estimated that over 100,000 Jews departed from Spain and Portugal during the persecutions and expulsion. Some of these Jews went to northern and western Africa. All right. These black Jews would innocently go to African countries, most of all because of less persecution, and they could semblance themselves easily among blacks. You see that? All right. It says R.H.M. Ells gives a vivid description of the Portuguese Jew, Baruch Spinoza, middle-sized, good features, skin somewhat black, black curly hair, long eyebrows of the same color, so that one might know by his looks that he was a descendant from the Portuguese Jews. Okay. When the Jews were expelled from Spain, about 100,000 entered Portugal. They were allowed to enter under the condition that they pay the poll tax, with the sense that they would leave the country within 8 months. Also at this time, the king beholden himself to take the Jews wherever they desired at the completion of the 8 months. When the time elapsed, many Jews were stranded because the king did not provide enough ships in time. All the black Jews who were left behind were deprived of their freedom and sold into slavery. You see, and this is when you get around the time period of 1600s, all right, when the transatlantic slave trade, really took off, right? But that is our history, man. That is the true history, all right? The Israelites, all right, in the Europe during the Middle Ages, all right? And with that, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying, okay? Now you can see that, these Edomites, all right, the basis of men have went out deceiving everybody, okay? But, you can't cover up the truth forever, man. And everything done in the dark gonna be brought to the light, all right? And we're in those times where, the Most High is removing the wool from off of people's eyes, okay? Removing that curtain, man. You got a lot of people that understand and know, all right, and waking up to the truth as far as, this history goes. All right. But yeah, man, with that, I want to go ahead and close out and give all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. Shalom to the next one.